Imagine someone placed a small piece of red stone in your hand. It isn't covered in gold, it isn't carved into the shape of an animal, and it doesn't contain a single written word. At first glance, it looks almost worthless. Yet this tiny object may hold one of the greatest secrets in human history. What if these simple engraved lines were humanity's very first idea? Every text message you send, every emoji you recognize, every road sign you obey, and every logo you instantly identify depends on one extraordinary ability. Your brain can understand that a simple shape represents something far greater than itself. We use symbols every single day without ever asking where this ability began. To find the answer, we have to travel back about 73,000 years to a time when there were no cities, no books, no writing, no farming, and no civilizations. The world belonged entirely to hunter-gatherers, and survival consumed every waking moment. Each sunrise meant searching for food, collecting shellfish along the coast, avoiding dangerous predators, protecting children, and hoping everyone survived until nightfall. In a world where every minute mattered, why would anyone spend precious time carving careful geometric lines into a piece of red ochre? That simple question has fascinated archaeologists for decades. Hidden inside Blombos Cave on the southern coast of present-day South Africa, researchers uncovered several pieces of ochre, but one fragment immediately stood apart. Across its smooth surface was a carefully engraved cross-hatched pattern unlike anything expected from people living 73,000 years ago. Under microscopic examination, scientists discovered the lines were not random scratches created while making tools. Each stroke had been intentionally planned and carved with controlled movements using a sharp stone point. Someone deliberately created this design. Today the pattern appears almost ordinary. A child could draw it within seconds. But when those lines were engraved, nothing resembling writing existed anywhere on Earth. There were no alphabets, no schools, no maps, and no recorded history. Whoever created this pattern did so in a world where almost every action served survival. That changes everything. For many years, archaeologists believed symbolic thinking appeared much later, when humans painted magnificent animals deep inside European caves. Those paintings seemed to represent the birth of imagination. Then Blombos Cave challenged that entire story. Suddenly, evidence suggested that modern human thinking may have begun much earlier and much farther south than anyone had imagined. The discovery wasn't important simply because it was old. It was important because it forced scientists to ask a much deeper question. When did humans stop merely reacting to the world and begin creating ideas that existed only inside their minds? Our ancestors already looked like us, and their brains were nearly the same size as ours, but appearance alone doesn't explain imagination. At some point in history, humans began sharing invisible concepts like identity, memory, belief, ownership, and meaning. Symbols made that possible. Without symbols, there would be no written language, no mathematics, no religion, no national flags, no company logos, no digital communication, and perhaps no civilization as we know it today. Could these simple engraved lines represent the earliest surviving evidence of that extraordinary mental leap? Scientists agree on one thing with remarkable confidence. The engraving was intentional. The lines were carved in a deliberate sequence, not by accident. But intention creates an even greater mystery. Why did someone carve it? Was it a personal signature, a family mark, a teaching tool, a ritual object, a symbol shared within a small community, or was it simply an artistic experiment by a curious individual? The truth is that archaeologists still don't know, and that uncertainty makes this tiny fragment one of the greatest mysteries in human history. The stone cannot explain itself. It carries no words and offers no direct answers. It leaves behind only silent evidence, yet sometimes silence tells the most powerful story of all. If these lines truly carried shared meaning, then 73,000 years ago, one human being succeeded in placing an invisible idea into the mind of another. That possibility transforms this small piece of ochre from an ordinary artifact into something extraordinary. It may represent the moment when imagination first left the human mind and became something another person could understand. But this mysterious engraving was only one discovery inside Blombos Cave, and what archaeologists found beside it may be even more astonishing, revealing that the people who lived here were far more intelligent, creative, and emotionally complex than anyone once believed. The surprises inside Blombos Cave didn't end with a single engraved stone. As archaeologists continued excavating deeper into the cave, they uncovered dozens of tiny shell beads, each carefully pierced and polished so they could be strung together and worn on the body. At first, they looked like ordinary seashells collected from the nearby coast, but microscopic analysis revealed something remarkable. The wear patterns around the holes showed that these shells had repeatedly rubbed against one another, exactly what would happen if they had been worn as necklaces or bracelets. Scientists also discovered traces of red ochre on some of the beads, suggesting they may have been deliberately colored before being worn. This wasn't survival, it was self-expression. Long before fashion brands, uniforms, or social media profiles, these people may have been communicating identity through appearance alone. Nearby, researchers uncovered what is considered one of the world's oldest known pigment processing workshops. 2 abalone shells had been used as natural containers, holding carefully mixed compounds of crushed red ochre, charcoal, animal bone, stone fragments, and liquid, creating a paint-like mixture nearly 100,000 years ago. This wasn't a random accident. It required planning, collecting different materials, remembering a process, and understanding how those ingredients work together. That level of preparation reveals something extraordinary about the people living here. They weren't simply reacting to the world around them. They were experimenting with it. They were solving problems, preserving knowledge, and passing practical skills from one generation to the next. Yet the biggest mystery still remains unsolved. What did those engraved lines actually mean? Some archaeologists believe they were purely decorative, created because humans naturally enjoy repeating geometric patterns. Others argue they served as symbols shared within a small community, perhaps marking ownership, identity, or membership in a particular group. Another possibility is that the engraving formed part of a ritual or teaching tradition, whose meaning disappeared tens of thousands of years ago. The honest answer is that no one knows for certain, because symbols only work when the people who created them are still alive to explain them. The makers of Blombos left behind no dictionary, no written records, and no voices for us to hear. They left only evidence, and archaeologists must patiently reconstruct the past from silent clues preserved beneath layers of earth. But even without knowing its exact meaning, the discovery changes our understanding of ourselves. Whether this pattern represented art, memory, identity, belief, or something we have never imagined, it proves that humans were capable of thinking beyond immediate survival far earlier than scientists once believed. Somewhere inside this cave, a person sat with a piece of ochre in one hand and a sharp stone in the other, then deliberately carved lines that served no obvious practical purpose. They could not have known that 73,000 years later another human would carefully study those same marks, wondering what they were trying to say. Across an unimaginable stretch of time, separated by thousands of generations, 2 minds became connected through a few simple lines. That is perhaps the most astonishing part of the story. The engraving itself may not be humanity's first symbol. Older examples may have existed but simply failed to survive, but it stands today as one of the earliest and strongest pieces of evidence that our ancestors were already imagining ideas too complex to hunt, touch, or hold. Every alphabet, every painting, every equation, every flag, every map, every musical note, every company logo, every emoji, and every message ever sent traces its existence back to one extraordinary human ability, the power to give meaning to a symbol. The crossed lines inside Blombos Cave remind us that civilization was not born when humans built cities or invented writing. It began much earlier, in the quiet moment when one person looked beyond survival and created a mark that carried an idea. We may never know exactly what that first idea was, but perhaps the greatest discovery is realizing that the desire to communicate, imagine, and leave something behind has always been part of what makes us human. And in that sense, every symbol we create today is a distant echo of a hand that reached across 73,000 years and unknowingly started a conversation that still hasn't ended. We often think history is locked away in museums, but every ancient discovery tells us something about who we are today. Subscribe to Yore for more evidence-based documentaries that uncover the forgotten stories of our past, and click on the next video to continue the journey.